Hi everyone, welcome to my analysis compilation number 22. In this clip we've got a big multi-lane roundabout and my viewer and the car to the right collide. Let's have a little look at this clip first. The other driver's definitely to blame, but as normal with most of these analysis clips, my viewer could have done things differently also. This video has been kindly sponsored by Car Vertical. From the coordinates that we've got with the footage, this is the Tankersley roundabout, just north of Sheffield in Barnsley, over the M1. It's 5 to 10 at night and it's a couple of days before Christmas in 2022. My viewers just come off the M1 and they're heading round to the A61, which is the third exit. Their lane choice on this particular roundabout is fine, but as we can see, the road markings are pretty poor. With this in mind, I'd definitely be even more careful of people making mistakes and switching lanes at the last moment. But since the move off, my viewer seems to have been directly next to the private hire taxi, and they continue in the same position. Again, the road markings are terrible, but my viewer did take the correct line. But they did very little about reducing risk. We can see the headlamp of this private hire to the right hand side, and it looks as though, like I've said, they've stayed there throughout the whole route round the roundabout. I'm sure you've all heard me say about driving in a staggered formation, and this is really important again here. Try and alter your speed and your acceleration so you're not directly next to people. Then things like this simply won't happen. My viewer did try and get out of it by using the brakes at the last moment, but it was all unfortunately that little bit too late. Sometimes when situations happen like this, your insurance can go up also, even though you're not to blame. As you probably know, I loved my Golf GTI that I had for 18 months, even though I had plenty of problems with it, and it makes me sad to see the state of this Golf in this Car Vertical report. It's obviously had a heavy front impact and there is damage on virtually all the panels, including the roof. The damage records go into more detail of what needs repairing or even replacing, and it even gives an estimated repair cost. I wonder how this damage happened. I know cars like this can often be driven quite hard, but sometimes accidents can happen even when you're doing everything pretty much safely. My bet though is that this collision involves a fair bit of speed. I was impressed with the details included within this report, and I'd be thankful of this much information if I was looking to purchase this vehicle. The report also shows further information apart from the extensive photos. The mileage seems to check out and there's no problems with the financial or legal status of the vehicle. Since the damage in 2017, this vehicle has changed owners a few times, but it hasn't failed an MOT once. If this repair has been done properly, this could be a bit of a bargain, but if you didn't know about the car's history, you wouldn't want to pay top dollar for it. Don't forget that these reports should be potentially part of your process when choosing a new vehicle. I always advise people to get any car checked over properly before you hand over any of your hard-earned money. Please check out my link in the description, and by using the promo code Ashley when you're checking out your next potential purchase, you can save yourself 10%. Thanks, Car Vertical. In this next clip we've got a nice 4-camera setup, and this is from a lorry, and unfortunately it's a merge-in turn mess up again. My viewers just position themselves in lane 2, which honestly is a pretty good idea. There's a bus in lane 1 and if that bus parks it's really difficult to actually manoeuvre out if you're driving a big lorry. I'm unsure whether my viewer knew the area and in fact knew whether there was going to be a merge in turn situation a little touch further. But it's the white, blue-sided van that's just dropping back in the top right-hand corner that we're going to be watching. We've got another set of lights in between where we are now and, unfortunately, the collision that happens. But when these lights change, try and work out where my viewer and his lorry should fit into things. Remember, you should try and operate things like a big zip, one from one side and one from the other. Also remember what I said in the last clip. Alter your speed and your acceleration so you're not directly next to someone. It's pretty obvious that my viewer should fall into line just after the bus. But the driver of the van has got other ideas. Perhaps they think that these arrows mean that my viewer's got to give way to the van, and that's not the case. I would like to pause the clip at this point here. Contact's just been made through sheer stubbornness. The van driver's an absolute plum, but I also think my viewer could have got out of that and made the situation a non-event. But look at the danger that these two pedestrians have just been put in. And this proves, even though you'll be totally safe in your 40-ton wagon if you have a collision at this point, it's always going to be the more vulnerable who are going to suffer. Luckily, they're totally fine. But only just. A similar summary, I think, to the last clip, where the other driver was to blame, but my viewer could and should have done better. I wonder how the insurance viewed this clip. They were both moving and no one had that priority. Let me know in the comments how you think this turned out. Yet another clip where my viewer is no way in the world to blame, but I would have expected myself to pick up on this. My viewer so nearly fixed that. It was only a split second too late. Let's have a quick look to see what clues there were. This is part of the same footage that my viewer sent in prior to the collision. Even though you've got priority here, make sure no one's coming from the right. And it's the same here even when the lights change with the lorry on the left hand side. Is it slowing down and definitely not jumping the lights? Yeah, we're okay to continue. And this is the mindset that many people don't apply to their driving. They think just because they've got priority, all should be good. And it's not. So now we're back at the original footage. I'd like you to show that same mindset that I just did with the lorry to this scenario and think whether or not you would have spotted this incident sooner. We've now seen the lights. Are we arriving at the same point? Yes, stop. So hopefully now you can understand why I can come to that conclusion that my viewer nearly sorted it, but they were just that little bit too late. As for the driver that just came out from that left-hand side, I have no words. This is exactly how people get killed. Can a similar thought process be applied to this clip? The speeds are a little bit lower, but honestly, I think it can. What clues could you preempt to see that this was going to happen? Remember, we're looking for someone who's potentially going to use the same space as my viewer. Where's that going to come from? Hopefully, you've already sussed it, and I think you probably have. Now, next question. Where do you think my viewer was looking at this point? Well, I think they were just staring to the right. I don't think they had a clue that this BMW has signalled and they're maybe looking to move. My viewer just goes for it when they see the gap with little thought to where they're going. They then use the horn as a little bit of a stress ball. Now, let's have a quick look at that one again, because there are a couple of other things I'd like to point out. Again, without question, the driver of this BMW does an absolutely terrible job. They needed to be much more patient and more observant if they were going to rejoin the traffic on the roundabout. But let's point out the clues so if it happens to you, you can possibly spot situations like this. The first obvious one is the queue to the left-hand side. People hate queuing, and people sometimes change their mind. The driver of the BMW has slowed right down, but the traffic in front is still moving. The brake lights have come off and they've put a right signal on. They're not keeping up with the flow in front, and they're looking for the same gap, potentially, that my viewer's looking for. They'll be using their right mirror at this point, and my viewer is probably hidden to a certain extent. And many people in this scenario will think because they're ahead of where my viewer is, when the gap comes, they should be the one that takes it first. Without doubt, it's poor driving, but hopefully now you can see how it happened. My viewer called this clip "Look left at the roundabout 2. They knew the mistake they made. Just for some perspective, this clip shows the exact opposite mindset. There's no thought for anyone arriving at the same point. They're just going for it. And they're all too eager to point the finger and blame everyone else.
Within a short space of time, we get 3 incidents which are very similar. And if this happens to you constantly, you need to be asking yourself the question. I'm not sure whether there was even a right signal on there. The differences are glaringly obvious. This clip unfortunately proves that other drivers don't have to be making a mistake or driving like a pillock to be causing you a problem that you've got to fix. This clip's just purely luck that no one was coming in the opposite direction at that inopportune moment. Watch the black people carrier, 3 vehicles in front. Sadly, that looks like a medical episode, and I really hope that that driver and the passengers were fine. So if this was happening to you and you were coming in the opposite direction, you're the only person who can do anything about it. Keep observing. I'll see you soon.